to go before the land.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that'll be after we redo the plan.
Would the clerk please read the statement,
Yes,
meeting statement?
adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public and the press on January 14th and January 18th, 2022. And is at the municipal building in the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7.
Thank you very much. Would the audience please stand and join with me in the pledge to our flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Vice President Bucieri,
Here.
Councilmember Fury,
Here.
Councilmember Lynch,
Here.
Councilmember Shortway,
Present.
Council President Rizzuto.
Here. This evening, we are pleased to have with us representatives of Ryan Homes, and they are their associates who are coming before us to present a presentation on the construction of some homes along the Route 94 by our ski area. This is interesting because living in this township for as long as I've had, this is one of the newer ones, and haven't had one of these in a while. So I think this may be, what are you trying to tell us? Something about Vernon? Are we being found, discovered, or what?
It's Michael Salvaggi from Labor Salvaggi, Amormitis Cohen, on behalf of the hopeful redeveloper of the property. I think what's happened is the COVID pandemic has, obviously you've heard everybody about working from home. It's pushed people more out here, and I think Vernon in Northwest New Jersey has been discovered as an area that's pleasant to live in. There's a certain bucolic atmosphere to it, which people like. It's certainly a lot more affordable than Bergen and Essex counties here in New Jersey. And the other thing you'll find with this is the housing product is not 4,000, 5,000 square foot center hall condos, because younger people aren't necessarily looking for as much house, because then you get to my age and it's you and your wife and 9 other rooms that nobody ever moves in. Except I always kid my wife. I said when I die and people come to the house after the funeral, that's when somebody will sit in my living room.
Do you have a parlor?
I'm Italian, yeah, and it's still got the cover on. No, but what I'd like to do is, this is back in 15 years ago, this particular parcel was part of a redevelopment plan that the governing body at that time had adopted. We're asking for an amendment to that plan to carve out a redevelopment plan as it relates to these 2 lots that will enable the developer to proceed with the development you see on the plan to my left. And the plan will provide significant housing. It's intended to also help the municipality satisfy affordable housing obligations. And it will bring in consumers, visitors when people come out here. So I think all in all, projects, Council President, I agree with you. There hasn't been a lot going on in Vernon. It's in a long time. And this could change the fabric. So what I'd like to do is, it's not a public hearing, so I'll just introduce John Hanson, who is the engineer, planner for the project. He'll go into some detail as to what's proposed, and then we'll be available to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you.
John Hanson with Engineering and Land Planning Associates with our primary office in High Bridge, New Jersey. So I've been retained by our client to take a look at this property, and we've done some preliminary wetlands delineation, flood hazard analysis. So we're still working through that. But just let me set up the property for you for a second here. So this is 525, lot 18 and lot 19. The bulk of the property, lot 18, which is approximately 89 acres. There's a small little out parcel over in this bottom right-hand corner, which is about 2.5 acres. That's lot 19. And so just to set this up, this has been overlaid onto an aerial photograph. And what you see at the top of the page here is the railroad that splits the Legends Golf Course. The Black Creek runs along the railroad there. And then at the bottom of the page, here is Route 94. And you'll also notice a landmark here, which is on our property, which is called the Legends Riding Stables. If you're all familiar with that. Across the street is the mineral spa and the Great Court Village. So what we've designed just preliminarily from a conceptual standpoint is a development with a total of 209 units, 120 single-family homes. Single-family homes are shown in the yellow boxes here. 47 market rate townhomes. Those are shown in the green boxes over on the northern side of the property. And then 42 affordable units. And these would be what they call stacked townhomes. So they'd be a 2-story townhome living on one window on the first floor, nothing on the second floor. So those would be a condo type situation. Everything else, the single family homes and the market rate townhomes would be fee simple, so they'd be owned and by individuals. This entire project would have to be served by water and sewer. So we're still working through the details on that. We've met with Suez and we've met with, had some discussions with the people that own Legends. So that, of course, we're still in those discussions, and that would have to be worked out to provide sewer and water for the property. But to get in a little bit more detail of what we set up here, we set up the main access to the project directly across from the minerals access. So it would be conventional type situation off of Route 94. There would also be another access in the northern section of the lot, which would feed these homes in this area, and then also act as an emergency access or secondary access for the project. And then we're still considering for this Legends stables, whether or not that existing access would remain, or whether or not we have to come in off of our new road and provide access to that. Most likely DOT would want us to eliminate that access off Route 94 and come in off the road. But that's the general layout. One of the other things that is an important component of it is that my clients are considering at this time to retain the Legends stable structure and to convert that into some type of farmer's market amenity. It would be basically leased out to someone who would run it, and that would be open to the public. So that's kind of the long and short of the development. We would design it to be compliant with the RSIS standards, which is residential site improvement standards for development such as this. We need permits from DOT, permits from NJDOT with respect to land use, obviously the redevelopment plan, and then ultimately approval by the planning board. So that's basically it in a nutshell. If I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to.
In some states, they require a certain amount of years of water for communities. This project, is there going to be 100 years of water available to them or whatever? I know that's a number that they use in some states. I don't know what it is here because we live in a well community, so everything is a little bit different than having city water.
Yeah, it wouldn't be based on the number of years, but it would be based on firm capacity.
Okay, okay.
All kind of dictated by the DEP and their water allocation permit requirements.
There's a follow-up question to that is, you had some discussions with Suez on, I know they have their wells down at Mountain Creek South. We're working on an agreement to bring water to town center because we're trying to, develop town center. Do you think there's going to be an issue with adequate water supply? And that's one question. On the wastewater side, obviously the MUA I was a chair for the MUA for 2 years, so they'd be obviously interested in, and if there was an interest in connecting to the Vernon Township sewer system. And have you done any preliminary work investigation of that?
Yeah, so we did meet with Suez, And so, there are some hurdles that we did connect into the Suez water system. The water system across the street on 94 that's backed by minerals there, I believe it's called the Vernon Valley system, or at least that's
Right.
they refer to it as. And so at the current time, they don't have capacity for the
Right.
project, and this property is not in the water franchise area. So there'd be a process of getting through BPU to get it into the franchise area. And then based on the configuration of the existing wells, most likely you'd have to drill another well, get a water allocation permit in order to provide firm capacity for this project.
Do you anticipate any issues with that, with DEV?
It's just go that route. It's a process. It's a long process to get through.
Right, because I know there's a water depth, Vernon's a water deficit area, so I think along with what Brian's saying, there may be, hopefully there's no issues, but
Right.
that's one of the things you need to explore. And then obviously on the sewer side too, this is something important to the township, is the MUA needs new customers. And it would be, I would, strongly encourage you, if make some time and meet with the MUA and have some discussions with them, because they'll be willing to listen.
We will do that.
I mean, one of the things that's very interesting is, this is the proverbial chicken and the egg. And we don't want to have all of those discussions, certainly with, insulting you guys going, well, wait a minute, these guys are talking to all these people about this project and we haven't had a chance to say anything about it. What we would probably do, and John's question, we probably, if you're willing to consider amending the redevelopment plan, we probably run these on parallel tracks so that when we have these conversations with the BPU and the MUA and Suez, we can at least say to them confidently that, there is, we're moving towards or in a direction to get approval for this project from the municipality. And then I think that gives us a little more credibility. And I think from a conceptual idea, those guys can actually look at something and decide this is what we have to do to get there. So.
Correct. Thanks.
I have to agree with you. I think your term, which comes first, the chicken or the egg, is exactly what's happening. And I would call it my vision of what I see on the Route 94 corridor going down from the town center, working down towards here and then down in towards Hardiston. That, there's facilities that can be, an amenity that can be added to that particular area, but they need people to serve. So now, do you put the amenities up first and hope they cluster around, or you bring the people in and hope the amenities follow? I think this offers a great opportunity, and I think it's, worth, discussing much more.
Yeah, and we're prepared to do that. I mean, understanding that, the redevelopment plan, we would meet with, your township planner and engineer, anybody else you may want to put on that subcommittee. I gather that's probably the best way to do it, and then bring the plan back to you guys rather than, trying to hammer it out in a meeting context like this. But, we could work again, parallel tracks and have, start those discussions with these other outside agencies about looking for those approvals.
In your layout, you're looking at the photos of the houses or the homes that you're presenting. What kind of amenities are you including in that layout for the homeowners? Is there dedicated recreation areas? There dedicated
Our thought at this time.
social areas?
No, it's a good question. I mean, our thought at this time was not to really include any amenities. We'd have certainly some passive recreation. I know that you have a trail system.
Right.
We try to connect to that. Try to, it would be a walkable community, sidewalks on both sides. But, our feeling was you have the golf course, you have minerals across the street, you've got all this other stuff that needs support from an amenity standpoint.
Okay.
And that, those people, if this project moved forward, could use those existing amenities that are around.
Okay.
Oh, I had another question too. The golf course, it's not going to cut into, are they going to lose any holes on that golf course? Is that
Well, yeah, it's 27 holes on the golf course, as you probably know. This is on what they call the quarry. So you would be losing a portion of the quarry's 9 for this.
Okay, you have to play,
Retaining 18.
okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So you'd still have a full functioning golf.
18 holes, but,
Yeah,
okay, good. I heard that.
Any floodplain concerns here?
We do have a floodplain. It's quite an extensive floodplain. There's 2 fingers of streams that run across Route 94, come down the mountain on both sides here. And then you have the Black Creek, which has an extensive floodplain. So in order to get that quantified, what we have to do is get a flood hazard verification from DEP. And so there are some flood maps, but the flood maps aren't shaped enough to be able to get that verification. So we're doing a computer model that would be then reviewed by DEP. And if they agree with our computer model where the flood hazard area is, then we would get a flood hazard verification.
Yeah, I don't know.
An LOI.
I don't know if that's exactly the location, but somewhere in that property, there's a historic cemetery back there that's missing. So if that is located, we would have to take significant efforts to protect that. It's been on a project for almost 3 or 4 years, but nobody's been able to find it. They said it's somewhere along that Sammons property. I think the whole project's very exciting now.
Yeah.
I really do.
You have any
No.
questions?
No, very exciting. Yep, definitely very positive.
I find it very, very exciting. As I said earlier, lived here for 55 years. And this is one of the larger, development areas that's come in, and certainly within the course of the last 20 years. It's significant. All I'm going to ask you, if, when you get going on this, keep us informed.
Yeah, well, and that brings up the question. I think what we would ask is, and generally the way it works, I'm offering up my clients' money, although they know about it. Usually what would happen is, there'd be escrow paid, and that would enable us to begin having conversations and meetings with your professionals. I know both Ms. Caldwell and Mr. Stoner have been involved in these types of matters in the past, both here and perhaps in other towns. So we'd be able to start to craft the redevelopment amendment. There's a couple of different approaches. I would defer to Ms. Caldwell as to whether we pull out these lots and give it its own redevelopment plan, as opposed to trying to amend the existing one, because that's pretty extensive and it involves a lot of lots. But we would have that process going on. Once a plan is put in place, we would return back to you guys. You would review it, approve it, hopefully. And that's what we would ask to be the next step in terms of going forward. And certainly Ms. Jessica Corey, I don't need to talk for them, but she speaks a little soft.
Good evening, Jessica Caldwell. Good evening, Council President, members of the council. So these parcels are in the McAfee Village mixed use zone. It is a redevelopment zone. It was put in place in 2004. The area, along with several other parcels surrounding it, including Legends and several other parcels in the area, are designated as a redevelopment zone and covered by this and other plans. So what I would recommend is that we just pull out these 2 parcels and write a redevelopment plan just for this proposed development, so that we don't inadvertently impact other sites and have to spend a lot of time trying to make sure we're not impacting other sites. And I think it would just be the cleanest and fastest way to get these guys moving forward on this project. It sounds like everyone's interested in seeing it go forward, and I think it's a good project for the community. So that's what I would recommend. And as they mentioned, the developer would put money in escrow to do the plan. We would bring the plan back for review. We can have a subcommittee of the council, and then we can bring it back for review by the entire council. It gets introduced just like a regular ordinance, referred to the land use board for consistency review with the master plan. and then you adopt it on second reading, public hearing, just like a regular ordinance. So I would believe that would be the best path forward. And that's what I would recommend. And I think their applicants hoping for maybe a vote or at least a nod or consensus this evening, if you're interested, and they would go ahead and start.
Before you go down a little further, having served on the land use board, and I know Mr. Lynch is on there now, I know that there are continuing themes, which when I was on, we worked to maintain those themes in terms of lighting, colorations, things like that. Are you going to be able to pass that theme into in this construction area?
Yes, absolutely. And we already made them aware that if it did go forward, that's what we'd be looking for, is the, mountain resort, Adirondack theme. That's, sort of what they're trying to get at with some of their renderings that they gave you, with the lighting and all of that would be consistent with the town center.
Okay.
So that we get and still maintain that resort feeling that the community has. And I think it's developing as we get more development. So yes, absolutely.
Just
And that's,
so you're familiar, I mean,
Yeah.
both Mr. Stoner and Ms. Caldwell, when we had broached this subject with them, they talked about that theme from an architectural standpoint. You can write that into the redevelopment plan, but this is something that the builder has kind of come up with, I think, to be consistent with those themes. And let's see, we've got a bunch of other ones if you want to take a look at it. But that is our purpose, to kind of be consistent with the architectural features that are already prevalent in the community.
okay. As far as, maybe I'm way ahead of myself on this, but if this were to get going, would the developers be willing to encourage public labor in terms of people who are laborers in the community, carpenters, tradespeople, and using that facility? Using them at this facility? Basically, I'm looking for jobs.
Yeah, there are two different groups. There's first land development, which I work for Ryan, almost like the parent company for Ryan at PR. We obviously, usually we will go with labor that's local. It doesn't generally work. It's not an industrial, like a large industrial project to bring people in and camp them out nearby. So usually you'll work, find local contractors. So I would imagine that the land development element would do that too.
Okay.
I can't speak for like hoteliers and so on. Generally.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for Corey. We did that water study several years ago on that Highlands grant. Would that help them? Any information there? If they're searching for water, we can give them all that information. Mostly with the recharge, and Mike brought it up, the deficit.
Talking about the water use management.
Yeah. With the Highlands.
Yeah, it'd be good to have that information, but with the fact that the town's going through that process, that'll help them get whatever permit they would need. When I look at these with this plan, my biggest issues, and then they know what my feelings are, that is the obstacles they have to overcome: water, sewer. They're right now into the Legend sewer service area. Like Mike said, it'd be an awesome benefit to the township if they would end up connecting it to our system, because the force main does go not too far behind here.
Right.
But the water and the sewer are the major items always.
Can't.
And I know as a redevelopment plan, it goes, you're permitting not necessarily the permit, but the flood hazard determination in the wetlands LOI. Because no matter, the buffer is going to be associated with that, would make this smaller. At least if they're going parallel, you make sure you do a redevelopment plan that's consistent with whatever they can and cannot do on the property.
The water would have to be recharged back into the aquifer, correct?
Yes, it would.
That's DP.
And that works into your sewer service area.
Exactly.
Right now, they are not in the town's sewer service area, the town center, the sewer system. But if they would, they'd have to stay with, I believe, the Legends. I'm not totally out on the Legends sewer service area.
Yeah.
Have to stay with that, go into the town. If they went into towns, they'd have to get the wastewater management plan amended at the county level. We got some stats to do that.
Yeah, I can answer that. The Legends is a separate sewer service area from the township, but I know there's plans on putting this property in the sewer service area. Once we get town center designation, I know that's being worked on right now between Danell and the MUA and Jessica. Once that happens, it'll end up in the sewer service area. But there are two separate, Legends has a separate one from the townships.
And let's go back to the water.
Right.
Maybe something like this would be some benefit to work with the town to help, rather than the town being the only generator. Need to bring water up into the town center. Now you have another arm maybe to help push that needle a little bit with the town getting water if we have more than one party trying to go for it.
Right.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions?
No.
Before you end, I would like to say, if you're gonna be moving any of the holes at the golf course, can you get rid of the par fives first? We'll work on them.
It saves him clubs.
Yeah, I'll throw it in the woods.
And strokes. All right, well, thank you very much for giving us the time. I guess we'll coordinate through Ms. Caldwell to, get all of that. And then, God willing, we'll be back, relatively soon with some ideas and some proposals for that redevelopment plan. And, John and our client will certainly proceed with trying to work out some of these details.
Right.
Certainly critical, so.
Can I hear a motion of support for continuance of this particular
I'll make
project?
that motion, Council President.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. There's a second by Mr. Fury. There being no other comments or questions, we'll do it by acclamation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Safety, I mean, huge.
This evening, we have a discussion item that's come up previously and talked about it a number of times, just basically scratched the surface. And I think with all of the acts that have been presented by the federal government and American Rescue Act, CARES Act and everything, there's an opportunity for grants. I'm opening the floor for a discussion on the how we would address the use of a grant writer, whether or not we look at a grant writer. Oh, excuse me, Marlon, I didn't see you up there. How are you?
Doing well. How you doing this evening, Council
Oh,
President?
thank you. Feel free to jump in if you think we're erring in our ways.
No, I've been paying attention.
Thank you.
Always does well thus far procedurally.
Okay, so these grants offer us an opportunity. The problem that we run into is people say hire a grant writer, as I see it. They do the work, you find out where there are grants available, and there's a lag time between the time that we determine if there's any response to the applications and any payments versus what has been paid out in salaries, benefits. Hiring, my experience in hiring professionals, they don't necessarily get you the grants that you want. They just get grants because they can demonstrate that they are presenting some to you and they tend to get paid on a percentage of what they bring in. So I'll open the floor. Any comments on this or any discussion?
Well, I asked for the discussion
Certainly.
and I think the timing is perfect because I know Danell has been working on some projects. And she received some information and started to fill some applications out for some federal funding. And she asked for a letter of support from each of the council members. I have already drafted that letter in support. I think there's a big need for water and wastewater infrastructure and some other projects. And if those monies are available, I think we should aggressively pursue those. Now, I've had a lot of experience with other townships and municipalities who take full advantage of the fact that they do this. I mean, I'll give you an example of Ridgewood, the village of Ridgewood, who, pretty wealthy community. They were able to get $2.8 million from the federal government, even though they're standing, their economic standing. So I think the money's out there, it's available. I think we should pursue it. I think in my opinion, I would rather have put out a RFQ or RFP looking for grant writers that work on a contingency rather than hiring another employee. I would prefer they would make the money off of once they receive the grant, which some do. They're out there, the grant writers are out there. I think it's a good idea. And I think we should pursue it. So that's at least my opinion. I know
One
Brian has
of my
expressed his.
concerns about having a grant writer and paying them to get grants essentially, you have to be careful what you wish for, because they'll get you a grant, but it may be for walking dachs hunts in the middle of the night somewhere on a street that only has certain lights that, you'll get a grant that has no bearing on anything in your town. The fire department had somebody come in quite some time ago, back when Melinda Carlton was here. And the guy come in and he was supposed to write a grant for the fire department. He was going to write a grant and he was going to put exercise equipment in each firehouse. We need like fire trucks and we need air packs and we need all that stuff, but he's going to let us all work out in the firehouse. So, it shows that you get what you pay for, and
Right.
let's get a grant writer that's going to do something for the town. And Mike, I think this is a great idea to have a grant writer. I just don't want to leave it that they are specifically going to be doing grants for the water and MUA.
No,
It's going to be a general grant
Yes,
writer for the
yes.
town
Correct.
and not a specialized one.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
One of the.
Oh, okay. I was just going to, it's been brought up at several meetings that the school board has someone on staff that writes grants. I did reach out to the school board. I haven't heard back. So I think that is something that maybe we could consider if they have availability. Then it's someone who has connection to our town, a different type of budget, different needs, but still a connection to our town. We don't have to commit to a full-time employee. It could even be, possibly an ad hoc basis. Like, here's a grant we want. We would need to negotiate with the school board fees and time frame. So I did put that out there. I'm just waiting to hear back. So I think that might be something, depending on their response, maybe we could discuss and then you have the ability, Brian, to say, hey, don't get us that stupid grant. Walking a dachshund, right? Like we want.
Yeah, like we need
And,
that.
Yeah, we know. So, that's just a possibility. I don't know if it's something that can come to fruition. We need to hear back from them and see if there's availability, if there's an interest, but I think it's something we can explore.
Thank you. One of the things I proposed last August 25th and September 14th to the mayor, it's a little different route than what we brought up, was creating a full-time position as an economic development representative. And it would be 3, it's under the Department of Personnel. So it's civil service, which we are. And basically what I wrote to the mayor was this team member would be under the direct supervision of the business administrator and work closely with the VTMUA, building, financial, community development, and the EDAC. We currently have no position that coordinates interaction between the different departments, being the MUA, including the Highlands Council and volunteers. In addition, the representative would be tasked with grants research and writing grants, a checklist for new businesses, and advise the BA on all matters affecting the development of business within our boundaries, including identifying problems, analysis, alternate solutions with corrective actions. So it would be a generalist to bring in tourism, and you actually find it in the Department of Personnel under the tourism, but they have different levels, and I thought 3 fit the best. Depending on their salaries, I think it would go between 40 and 60,000, but that would be up to the mayor and the council to work together. So that's the route I was proposing last summer.
Is it possible to hire somebody along the same lines as an outside consultant rather than a full-time employee?
We'd have to put, like you said, RFQs out.
RFQ out and then see what's out there.
We've had my first term on the council, we did look for grant writers, professional grant writers,
Right.
companies that come in on this. And the problem that we had was, they would come in, they couldn't guarantee you an MUA grant, but they might come in with something like Mr. Lynch was talking about, putting exercise in
Right.
a fireplace, in the firehouse rather, because, it's the sources are what they begin to shop. And, they're going to be looking to come in and strike gold as quickly as possible. So it's really difficult in that regard. One of the things that I like about your comment, Mr. Shortway, is that, and I've mentioned it a number of times to the administration, when we go down to League of Municipalities and you go into the meeting areas, in between the classes, you go into the big hall, and they have a lot of vendors there displaying their wares. See an awful lot of townships showing and selling their township. And they do have, stand-up models, little fold-up things, you have three-dimensional things, and people who are apprised of the township by, these people, we're selling ourselves. And I think that becomes a necessity, especially for a tourist township. Because at that point, in the wintertime, they know who to contact and how to be able to bring up buses for skiing or for water sports and things like that. So I think it's something that maybe we can task the mayor and the business administrator, whoever that may be, and ask them if they can come in and prepare a document for us with some type of an outline whereby, these particular requirements are addressed.
And the other thing too is to avoid things that we don't need is to be very specific on what we need.
Absolutely.
And really identify the
Top
actual.
areas of emphasis.
Right, yeah.
I mean, with all this proposed development that we're hearing, we do need someone to coordinate all this with all the volunteers.
Absolutely.
And all the departments.
Mhm.
Yep.
I mean, we really have a lot of things in the works right now.
I think before we make any decisions on that also, I think an examination of the current employment schedule needs to be reviewed. We're not looking to bring people on unless absolutely necessary.
Correct.
Correct.
And, so we could look
This
at
is
it.
going to be a giant undertaking for this township, and to have somebody that is a point person like Harry is suggesting here might take a lot of the I guess the hard work away from a lot of the people who are already working in the town on a lot of other things.
There might be
There might be
somebody,
room.
there might be somebody in the government right now that's capable of doing it.
That's, hopefully that would work.
Okay, can we move on?
Yep.
Mayor's comments?
Thank you, Mr. Council President and council members. My comments tonight will cover three issues. The first issue relates to the fact that one of the many things that I've learned during these 2+ years that I've had the honor of serving as Vernon's mayor is that we are very fortunate to have some very good municipal employees. On tonight, I want to share with you the pride that I feel as a result of knowing that one of those municipal employees, Chief of Police Dan Young, has been recognized and honored by both county and state law enforcement agencies. At the county level, Chief Young's professionalism and leadership has been recognized by the other police chiefs of Sussex County by their election of him as the president of the Sussex County Chiefs of Police Association for 2022, which is the 50th year of this association's founding. In this leadership role, Chief Young is tasked with leading the effort to further the development of relationships between the county's law enforcement agencies, other organizations in our county and other counties, as well as our state and federal law enforcement partners. Chief Young's leadership has already been evident during his first 3 months in this leadership position. He has led the organizing of a countywide law enforcement training program, by the way, which will be held right here in Vernon Township in the Mountain Creek Red Tail Lodge. The training program is based on officer wellness and will feature a guest speaker and presenter in the form of a notable retired police chief from the state of Illinois. The type of wellness training that Chief Young has arranged is always vital to our law enforcement personnel, and especially so during these times of the extra high stress that they face in just doing their daily jobs. At the state level, Chief Young's professionalism and leadership resulted in him being one of only 15 police chiefs in the entire state of New Jersey to be selected to participate in a working group that's reviewing and developing law enforcement initiatives. You know, I've known Chief Young for many years, and one of the many things that I admire about him is the fact that he's always strives for continuous improvement. His latest self-improvement accomplishment came, in fact, just last week when he completed the final academic course required to earn a master's degree in administration with focus on public administration. He will be awarded this degree at Fairleigh Dickinson University's commencement ceremonies on May the 17th. You know, Vernon is indeed fortunate to have an individual of this caliber as one of our municipal employees and as our police chief. The second issue that I comment on relates to an important social matter that's close to my heart. During the council's March 14 council meeting, Vice President Bucieri, I remember you read a proclamation indicating that April would be National Child Abuse Month. Well, April is here. And as the mayor of Vernon Township, I want to express my thanks and appreciation to the Vernon Township Women's Club for the special and unique way that they bring special attention to this very serious and important social issue. I speak of their annual planting of a garden of pinwheels in front of the municipal center. Pinwheels for Prevention became a nationwide campaign in 2008 with the aim of making the pinwheel a national symbol for child abuse and neglect prevention. I have special admiration for the Vernon Township Women's Club because it is an all-volunteer service organization comprised of compassionate women who share a commitment to helping others. They call themselves a, quote, giving club, unquote, because they give whatever they can, whenever they can. The Vernon Township Women's Club was established in 1972 and consists of not just women from Vernon Township, but also women from throughout Sussex County of all ages and in all stages of their lives. They have a strong association with the Highlands District of the New Jersey State Federation of Women's Club, which represents over 200 women's clubs throughout the state of New Jersey. They also have a strong association with the Greater Federation of Women's Club, a federation of over 3,000 women's clubs throughout the United States of America. The Vernon Township Women's Club have a wide range of helping missions. However, their child abuse and neglect prevention mission is one that I, quite frankly, admire the most. I believe that child abuse can be prevented in some cases and reduced in others. And the Vernon Township Women's Club annual planting of pinwheels helps in the effort to let our community know that we all have an important part to play in making that happen. Objective studies have shown that when the well-being of children and families become a priority in a community, the number of child abuse and neglect incidents decrease. Other good things also happen for families, including better health outcomes, improved school performance, and stronger economic self-sufficiency. I want to thank the Vernon Township Women's Club for planting their pinwheel garden in front of our municipal center. This gives us an opportunity to express our support of this very serious and important social issue. The third and final issue is one that I really hate to have to report, because it relates to the fact that my administration made an error. And it's something that I'm neither proud of or pleased with. And because this error occurred on my watch as mayor, I accept responsibility for it. The error was made during our November 2021 sale of excess municipal property, which was a part of our efforts to get vacant, not used municipal property back on the tax rolls. During this sale, we erroneously sold a 0.18 of an acre parcel of municipal property that contained one of the municipality's 5 repeater devices that are used to extend the range of our overall communication ability to various parts of our 70 square mile township. While I have already informed and updated the council on this matter and have had several detailed and lengthy conversations about it with some of my council colleagues, I make this matter a part of my comments tonight as a way of informing and updating the public on the facts of this matter. Let me start by saying that it was on March the 31st that I first learned that the town had sold this piece of property in error. I informed the council of this error the very next day. I also communicated to the council that I would conduct a detailed inquiry of this matter and would provide them a summary report that would, number one, tell them what happened. Number two, the reasons that this error occurred. Number three, actions that I had taken and would be taken so as to ensure that this kind of error does not occur in the future. And number four, actions that I had taken and was in the process of taking to find an effective solution to the problem that had been created. I provided the promised written summary report to the council on April the 7th. As to what happened and why it happened, first, planning for this sale started with a list of 306 vacant municipal properties to be sold. The source from which this list was created was the same municipal database that the town uses to identify all vacant and non-vacant property within the township. The logic in this database assumes that any piece of property with $1 land value, but no $1 property improvement value is vacant. Second, this was the first flaw that my inquiry discovered in the administrative procedure that was being used for this land sale preparation process. That is, the list of vacant municipal properties was not accurate. Because over the years, the addition of equipment such as our municipal communications equipment on a piece of municipal property had not been automatically added as a property improvement in the municipal database that was used to create this vacant property list. This is the reason that the vacant municipal properties to be sold list included properties that contain some of our municipal communications equipment. Third, among the other things that my detailed inquiry discovered was that not only was this vacant municipal property to be sold list inaccurate, but that the way in which the property was recorded on this list, that is simply by lot, block, and street address, and no other descriptive or identifying information, made it not possible for those using this list to prepare for this vacant property sale to readily identify property that might need to be removed from this list. Fourth, these and others are things that we now know about this flawed administrative process. However, there are things that we now know only as a result of a detailed inquiry. At the time that this administrative process was taking place, most of the administrative errors that were discovered during my inquiry were unknown or unknowable. The critical issue of this flawed administrative process was that it created a perfect administrative storm for a 0.1 of an acre parcel of municipal property that contained one of the municipality's 5 repeater devices that's used to extend the range of our overall communications ability to the various parts of our 70 square mile township. As to actions that I've taken to ensure that this kind of error does not occur in the future, the first action that I took was to postpone the vacant property sale that we had planned for June. This sale has been postponed until the issues that led to the erroneous sale of a valuable piece of municipal property are fully corrected. Action 2, Business Administrator Volk and I have had several discussions and planning sessions about actions that will be taken to ensure that this kind of error does not occur in the future. They include, but are not limited to, the following. The database from which the vacant municipal properties to be sold list was created will be updated and amended to ensure that any meaningful improvements to municipal properties are immediately recorded as property improvements. This will ensure the accuracy of the next vacant municipal properties to be sold list that's produced. B, prior to all future excess property sales, the vacant municipal properties to be sold list will be circulated for detailed review by every department head, key members of the volunteer fire department, key members of our volunteer EMS service, and our others who may have knowledge of the location of communications or other equipment and any improvements which would make these properties valuable to the municipality and therefore should not be sold. Future vacant municipal properties to be sold lists will be constructed in a manner that will make them valuable assets and readily identify any municipal properties on the list that will possibly be removed. And as a specific corrective action related to municipal communications equipment, per my request, Chief of Police Young has developed an emergency services radio tower communications equipment spreadsheet containing the name, the latitude, the longitude, the physical address, plus the lot and block number where each piece of municipal communications equipment is located. Before it is finalized, this spreadsheet will be reviewed by the business administrator, the OEM coordinator, the DPW director, and the appropriate fire department and EMS personnel. After the spreadsheet is completed, it will be made available to all department heads and other personnel as appropriate, and it will be maintained by the chief of police. And finally, actions we have taken and are taking to find an effective solution to the problem that has been created. We have gained written confirmation from the Vernon Township resident who purchased this municipal property containing this repeater that the town and its vendors have and will continue to have free and unrestricted access to this communication site and to this equipment. Number 2, we have ensured that our town and all of its agencies have the same communications capability now that we had before this property sale error occurred. We are in discussions with the purchaser of this property with the objective of reestablishing the town's ownership of the property at a price that's cost-effective and efficient and reasonable. Now, understanding that we may not be successful at negotiating a reasonable, cost-effective repurchase agreement, and understanding that there's normally always a cost to correct an error, Business Administrator Volk and I are working close with Chief of Police Young in exploring and evaluating options that could result in the town finding a solution to this problem that would enable the town to perhaps gain more modern, more up-to-date, effective, and efficient communications range extended equipment. A key consideration is the fact that most of the communications equipment at this specific site may have reached its useful life, since the most recent piece of communications equipment at this site is at least a decade old. As I end, let me be clear. In no way do I view this error as a good thing. It simply should not have happened. However, I now know about the error. Through a detailed inquiry, I know why the error occurred. I have taken action to ensure that this type of error will not occur in the future, and I'm working diligently and confidentially with knowledgeable, competent individuals on an effective solution to the problem that this error created. My approach to dealing with this error is greatly influenced by the words of one of my political and civic heroes, the former President John F. Kennedy. President Kennedy said, "An error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it." And we are correcting that error. Members of the council and council president, those end my formal comments for tonight.
Thank you. This time I'll ask for a motion to open the floor. Public
I'll
comment.
make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Fury. Is
I'll
there a
second
second?
it.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. Floor is open for comments. The public, please state your name. It's restricted to, this portion is restricted to the items on the agenda.
Was the
Minutes.
agenda published? Because I looked several times and I didn't see it.
Uh,
Can I comment about what the mayor just commented?
Not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda.
You can comment on it at the latter part of the meeting.
I will get back up then. Thank you.
Anyone else? Is anybody here? Wish to address the, we have anybody from
Yes.
Skyboxes?
I have Peg DeStacy.
Good evening,
Espresso.
everybody.
Good evening.
Peg DeStacy, 35-year resident, Glenwood. You know, although the project that the Legends has presented tonight is very, very exciting, I hope that you'll remember the needs of Vernon. Don't let Vernon be caught short as it's been done in the past. Require the expansion to sign into the water and sewer system, as our aquifer is running at a deficit and we cannot sustain the new draw. And we need the UDUs for the MUA. Stand strong for Vernon. I am not opposed to this in any way, but we must protect our community. In addition, I would like to congratulate Dan Young on his achievement. Job well done. And I wish him nothing but continued success. I do have one question. What is the purpose of the emergency fuel purchase? Why is this out of the ordinary? In addition, I would like to make a comment on the grant writer. I have been stating, I believe it's now the 4th meeting in a row, that the Board of Education has a grant writer that they want, I'll say it again, want to share. That is after many discussions I have had with BOE members. I do believe that as CEO, Danielle should be writing our grants, but maybe she's too busy. I don't know. This is an expense that must be absorbed within our already township expenditures. We don't need to go outside of this town to hire a grant writer. We don't need a full-time grant writer. We just need somebody that's willing and able to do the job. Please contact the BOE and stress that we are looking to cost share that. They are willing Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Nastasi. Point of information, our council vice president is the liaison between the Board of Education and the council. She is in discussions with this, so, I guess, I'm happy to say we were maybe a jump ahead of you on that one. Thank you.
I have Jessica Palladini.
Mrs. Palladini?
Good evening. I also want to congratulate Chief Dan Young. I think he's one of the best police chiefs our town has ever had. I also want to say, boy, the mayor really knows how to distort and deflect, huh? What I want to discuss right now is the bills list, but I want to also address the grant writer. We just keep going in circles in Vernon. The town hired a grant writer more than a decade ago, and that was a dismal failure. Brian is 100% correct about what he said regarding that grant writer hired back then. You should be hiring a part-time employee on staff who knows how to write grants, not someone you have to train to write grants, because we've certainly paid money to do that enough times to get nowhere, and not an independent grant writer. This is not brain surgery. I've been hearing this for 20 years now. I have written tons of grants, and no, I don't want the job. 2 weeks ago, I told you that there was millions of dollars in funding that we, the Historical Society, could apply for on your behalf from the Scenic Byway Committee. This could go for capital improvements and a multitude of things, but I have not heard from anyone about it. Lastly, I want to say, the council did a great job in giving us a zero increase in our municipal taxes, but there are line items in that budget that are disturbing, which I will raise at the budget public hearing. For now, I want to say, though, that you have appropriated just $500 for economic development and $500 for environmental commission, both of which have secretaries. So all of that money would go for secretarial services, yet you have appropriated $6,500 for the mayor's wife's beautification committee. This is unprecedented. Looking at the bills list tonight, I realized something else. You are so shorthanded in the building department, which produces economic development and ratables. The inspectors can't even get out there for a week or more when the law says they must do it within 3 days or the project can continue. And yet, instead of hiring someone in the building department, you hire extra help for chalk art. And then we pay this employee an extra $125, which is on your bills list today, to facilitate an art class in the senior center. You know how many people in this town would volunteer their time to teach art lessons? I feel this is just an abuse of taxpayer money. And I really object when I see on the bills list that you hired someone to facilitate chalk art instead of.
Please wrap your time up, please. Your comments up, Mrs. Palladini.
I really think you need to rethink some of these things, because this is an abuse of taxpayer money. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Diane Wexler.
Mrs. Wexler? Mrs. Wexler?
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay, well, thank you, and don't mind the puppy barking in the background. I just want to talk on the grant writer. There are a lot of grants out there. The Environmental Commission is doing a lot of research on solar stuff and EV charging stations and other stuff to get money into this town to have these things built, all right, with tax, not with our money, grant money. There's lots of money out there, and bring us into, do we think that people from down below with EV cars are gonna come up here to Vernon if they can't charge their cars. We really have to do this. And I just think there's a lot of grants out there, and it would really be wonderful if we could share the grant writer that the Board of Ed has and get some of this stuff done. That's all I want to say. You know, I hate talking at town meetings, Pat, so I'm done.
Thank you very much. You're always a pleasure to hear. Anyone else?
Yes, Tom McClackery.
Mr. McClackery. Mr.
Yes.
McClackery?
To start out with, I'm not one of those pundits that would suggest that you auction off that building on Church Street. But I would like to ask the gentleman that made the presentation on the development kept stating redevelopment. And you probably covered it and I didn't hear it. So are we going with property taxes or are we going with pilots? Simple question. You don't have to give me a number.
Pilots. Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. I don't think we've crossed that bridge yet.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, well, that bridge is coming up and I think that's why he kept throwing it out there. Originally redevelopment zones were meant to redevelop industrial waste
Right.
areas, inner cities, and it's been used to facilitate, redevelopment of farmland and golf courses. That's all I gotta say. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. McClackery. Is there anyone else?
I don't see any other hands up, Council President.
Okay. Not seeing any other hands here. May I have a motion to close the meeting to the
I'll
public?
make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch.
I'll
Is there a
second it.
second? Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next item on the agenda. Review the bills list. Do we have any?
I have some, Council President.
Go ahead.
The first one is I have about 4 or 5. The first one is a case for a Sergeant phone, $131.
The check number.
Huh?
What's the check number?
It's 22-00376. It's the very first item.
Okay.
I think that's the account number. Is it the check number, the 57 number?
Yeah, 574.31.
Oh, yes, okay, I'm sorry. Yes. It's a phone case for $131.
What's the check number again, Brian?
57431.
It's the first bill for Amazon.
Yeah. I don't know, I didn't know that they were that expensive. Yeah.
If I can,
Yes.
yeah, so
your
it's not just the phone. It's not just the phone case that was that much.
Okay.
So there were two items on that. I just brought up the backup in my office. So it was, we have the phone case, which was like $56. And then we had a car kit. The police department has somebody that works internally to do a lot of the installation of both computers and other equipment in the cars that we have. So it looked like they needed another car kit to replace the one they had.
Thank you.
The other 2 that I have is Gabrielli Kenworth. Do we have Kenworth trucks in the town?
It's on the first page.
You've got a check number again?
7443.
Hold on.
And I was looking up the backup.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
So I'm trying my best because I'm not a mechanic, but I can say that they were buying bracket assemblies from this place. I don't know if that means it was for, I don't believe that we have any Kenworths, but
I will,
you might have to
I'll-
check with the DPW
have to
regarding
check with
this.
the DPW. I think that was the only thing that we should do here is,
Okay.
the other two that I have, three rather, are, a baton instructor course. What is a baton instructor course?
Oh, I know.
I'll take that one.
It's not a twirler.
That would be for one of the police officers to become an instructor, to certify and train police officers in the department.
So they went to that course, okay. Newton Animal Hospital emergency fee for euthanasia. Did we need to euthanize, and is that how we do it in the animal department? Is we take to Newton Hospital to have euthanasia?
I didn't realize we were taking them to Newton Hospital.
'Cause I thought we were no kill.
Well, we have been no kill. However, there are some times where if an animal is very sick and there's no point in.
By car or something, yeah.
Yeah, I would think it.
And the only other one is you know what, this last one, really, I understand what it is, so I'm good. I'm going to, if Mr. Mayor, would it be okay with you if I contacted the DPW tomorrow and spoke with Ed Babcock just about, I don't know that we have any Kenworth trucks.
Absolutely.
Would it be all right with you?
Councilman.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
I have no questions.
Sure.
I just have a quick comment. I see the Conica lease, which is 57,454 on page 2, a little over $1,400 for the copier. And then on the next page, 57,471, there's a lease for a Rico copier also. So I just know that and I'm sure don't make as many copies as the school district does, but I know they just were able to renegotiate with their copier leases and got a much better rate. So I just wondered how long our leases are for and if there's any opportunities there to renegotiate. And is this a monthly lease or is this a quarterly lease, these figures?
I know that the Rico lease is ending and the other one is starting,
Oh, okay.
closing out the Rico.
So you won't have Rico anymore?
No.
But, okay. So this is, how frequently then? So we're going from 323 to 1,400? So did we like quadruple our copier bill?
No, I think it's a longer period of time. Is that correct, Danelle?
Okay, so the 1,400, those are there's a multitude of, I'm looking at one of the bills right now. There's a multitude of copiers on that. It's not just one. The one that was the Rico and Marcy are there. I believe that was for the clerk's machine. Is that correct?
I don't even see those bills,
Hold
actually.
on, I want to see.
Yeah.
I just want to see because I know that they're done.
But the clerk's copier, the Rico lease is over, and we ordered a Conica. So we're
Yes.
waiting.
So this will be a replacement. So is that $1,400 a monthly payment to now, or is that a quarterly?
Yes. Yeah, it's a monthly payment and there's currently 7 copiers on that lease agreement.
And we just started this agreement with Conica? I'm sorry, Conica.
No, it's okay. I think we have some of these started at different times. So I know the one that was in my office, we started in 2020. And I believe that was a 3-year lease, but let me double check with the administration and I can get you information on that.
All right, that's fine. Thank you.
One question, state training, state of New Jersey, state training, $6,217. What kind of course is it? For police or?
I believe so.
57,492.
Mandated training from the Attorney General
For the department?
for the members of the department.
And the developers bonds, these were released to the developers? Or this is the amount of money that
Which ones are those?
57,491 and 490? They're right above the state training, state of New Jersey.
Those are, sorry, I can comment on this. So those are the amounts for the LCPOA dam assessments. When they've been paid in full, we can release monies back to.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have our engineers approval to release these.
So no, it doesn't have to do with like an engineer's approval. The dam assessments that are managed by the township.
Yeah.
The associations had to front some of those monies, so it's like a releasement back to our developers bond account.
All right.
It's a little confusing because we have to take it from the trust accounts and move it to the developers bond account, and this is the only way that we can do that.
Thank you.
No, I'm okay.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Approval of minutes.
So I have a small comment.
Can we go one by one? The minutes of March.
You didn't get married.
I just had a small comment on minutes, which is
We'll amend it.
they will amend.
I'll fix
There's
it.
no
Yeah,
problem.
I have a note.
Let's move on. All members have received copies of the minutes for minutes of March 14th, regular meeting, March 21st, and March 28th. May I have a motion to place them on the floor for consideration and any changes or additions?
I'll make a motion. I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Fury, seconded by Mr. Lynch. Your comment, please.
Yeah, there was just a small change that
Okay.
it was taken care of. Yeah.
Taken care of? Okay, fine.
Mr. President, we're gonna go one by one because I have to abstain from
Yes.
March 21st.
Okay. For March 14th, regular meeting, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury.
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Minutes of our special meeting, March 21st. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury.
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Abstain.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes. And for our regular meeting of March 28th, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury.
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I give, maybe, excuse me, moving on to our consent agenda. Resolution 2285, a resolution of the Township Council of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, in support of amending Title 35 of the New Jersey Revised Statutes to permit publication of legal notices by government entities on official government websites instead of in newspapers. May I have a motion to place that on the floor for discussion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Fury. I, for one, am pleased with this. I mean, I don't know if the public knows the amount of money that the township spends on legal notices. And if this can reduce or supplant the expenditures that we are now doing, it would make a tremendous,
I agree.
be a tremendous help to our budget. So if anybody else would like to comment?
I agree.
Agree?
No, I agree.
Okay, thank you. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch.
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway.
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Resolution 2286, authorizing emergency procurement of fuel for daily operations of the Township of Vernon. May I have a motion to place this on the floor?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch, seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. There was some questions on this. Would Mayor, care to counsel a comment on this as to why it's necessary?
I'll take it.
Go ahead.
We were notified by Baldwin Fuel, which has been our supplier for the last, well, before I got here, and that he was going out of business. He informed us last year. We started the process of putting in permanent fuel tanks of our own, which, if any of you have noticed, is going to be built at the corner of the lot closest to the DPW driveway. Again, due to delays in manufacturing and delivery, we ordered those back in August of last year. The tanks, we were just informed last week, will likely be here in 2 weeks. So knowing that Mr. Baldwin had informed us he would probably be able to provide fuel till a little after April 1st, we found out today, as a matter of fact, he notified us that he was dry on gasoline. He has a little bit of diesel left. So these were emergency precautions we started to put in place in March, when we realized that we were not going to have the permanent fueling station set up in time, and that we had to provide fuel for all of the township vehicles, for volunteers, for the fire department, EMS, and naturally the police. So we put this in place with SOS Fuel, and we currently have those tanks in the DPW yard so that they can be accessed 24/7 like they did when they had the fuel was over at Baldwin.
Okay,
How big are the new tanks gonna be?
New tanks are going to be 5,000 each.
5,000 for the gas and 5,000 for diesel?
Yes.
And when do you anticipate, I mean, have an idea when it?
We received notice last week that they are due to be delivered in approximately 2 weeks. That means that we don't know whether they'll be on time, but if they are, we would still have to do some additional work. The site is not finished being constructed yet, but we hope that by the time they arrive, they'll be ready, that we can just put them in place and move forward with ordering the fuel for that, which will be cheaper than what we're doing temporarily.
Maybe the end of May, if everything.
I would say we're hopeful that it would definitely be by the end of May.
Okay.
All of this is kind of like many other things you order. You know, you put in an order and they say it's going to be here this time, and, you know, it's because of supply chain and others. You've kind of been a prisoner of people. So
I would like to raise a question, because I know the public is probably thinking it, because I've sort of, you know, unless you're really in the weeds, so to speak, you probably don't have an answer. And yet there are other townships that have supply depots in their own facilities. Why not just give somebody a credit card to be able to use at any number of the stations that we have in the community? They can be secured, and you wouldn't have to go through this expense. Now, I know what I've been told, and I understand the answer, but I'm raising the question on behalf of the people who maybe are saying, why the heck are they just doing this, you know?
Well, I think anybody that goes into a gas station now is aware of the fact that there are federal and state taxes attached to those prices. And what we were purchasing through Baldwin Fuel was not taxed. Even with the temporary solution with SOS Fuels, they will not be charging us taxes. If you go into any of the gas stations in town, you will be charged taxes. So in the long term, it will mount up. But
saves us a little money. I understand why you asked the question. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Also, the fire trucks and DPW trucks can't fit in and out of some of these gas stations in town.
Not only these canopies, that things.
I know the ladder truck won't be able to. I know that the DPW has got some big trucks, and especially during a snow emergency with the big plows on the front. I don't know if they'd be able to go into a gas station and out of a gas station without plowing their way in and out.
Right. Thank you. I just wanted to raise the question so that the public had an opportunity to hear the answer. Did we have a vote? Roll call, please.
Vice President Bucieri?
Yes.
Fury.
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway.
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Carries.
Resolution 2287 through 2291. May we consider that as
Yes.
part of the
Mhm.
consent?
Yep.
I'll make a motion.
Motion is made
I'll
by
second it.
Mr. Fury. Is there a second, and
I'll
seconded by
second it.
Mrs. Bucieri. Any question or comment on these items?
No.
Okay.
No.
Roll call vote, please.
Vice President Bucieri.
Yes.
Councilmember Fury.
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch. Councilmember Shortway.
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution authorizing an agreement between Township of Vernon and the AFSMI Local 3181 rank and file unit for 2022 to 2024. May I have a motion to place this on the floor for approval?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Made by Mr. Lynch, seconded by Mr. Shortway. Any question or comment on this? I think we've all been given an extensive
Mhm.
briefing on this. Any comments?
I have three.
Go ahead.
Under salaries, township can place a new employee on the salary guide at steps 2 or 3. Based upon employee's experience, knowledge, or education is determined by the director. First of all, I think that should be changed to mayor because he's the chief executive officer. Second, it's too general. Are we talking about prior experience in a municipal, state, or local municipality, DPW? We're saying education. What does that mean? What's the training? And what's the experience? So I think that needs to be developed more and brought out. So with those two, and then I have a third, if you go under overtime D, if the bank time is not the ability, if the bank time is not used within 1 year of being earned, the employee loses the ability to utilize the time as time off and will have the time paid to him/her at his/her hourly rate. Is he or she paid when it's earned or paid when she cashes in? He or she cashes in, because you could be promoted, it could be a different rate.
It could be a raise in between then and you'll be getting the rate. Yeah, yeah.
Those are my three concerns. I don't know if they can be changed here. I have an explanation that satisfies the council, but those are my three concerns with.
Thank you. Anybody
I
else?
think a simple way to fix that part of it is just to pay out at the time of the time that was taken. But if it's paid out at the end of the year, unfortunately, it's after everything has been erased, it's been already been issued.
All of this has been done by collective bargaining.
Yeah.
Normal way to do it. And my comment was going to be that this is my first opportunity to see this agreement, and haven't had chance to discuss it with members of the council in an executive session or with the members of the administration. In good faith, I know I see a lot of men here this evening, and I'm sure they're looking for approval. Can we table this until the next meeting and see if we can set up some type of a meeting, either with a committee of the council to review this or is there a mechanism that is in place that we can discuss this here? I don't, having been involved in the collective bargaining myself, I don't normally subscribe to the idea of bargaining in public. It just doesn't.
Yeah, Council President,
What does Marlon say?
Hey, great.
What does
Council
Marlon's
President.
got a comment?
Well,
Yeah.
this is Mr. Towns. I wouldn't recommend you have the discussion in public.
Right.
It would be more appropriate for closed session, given that this has to do with a contractual agreement. Moreover, the governing body, you can't unilaterally make one-sided changes. Any amendments to this
Exactly.
agreement, the union would have to agree to. There would have to be a meeting of minds. So to the extent you're not prepared to move forward this evening, you have to table it or take other appropriate action.
thank you.
Can I say something, Mr. President? Can we approve this with the ability to go back and do an addendum to the questions that Harry come up with, instead of holding the whole contract down until we finish out these three things. It doesn't seem that they're going to be too hard to figure out.
My experience in bargaining is that the whole contract, the whole vehicle becomes an area to consider when you're discussing one item. It may impinge on another, or it may simply be a case of, a quid pro quo. This is my experience. Marlon, Mr.
No,
Towns?
I agree with you, Council President. A lot of times with these agreements, it's a whole package that you come to an agreement with, and you exchange certain things for other things. So it's usually not a good idea to kind of consider things in a vacuum, so to speak.
Thank you very much. So may I have a motion to table?
Motion to table.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Fury. Motion made by Mr. Shortway. My comment is, I'm sure we'll be able to work this out. I think the ability to raise this question in public and have it understood stands well for the relationship that the township has with the AFSCME group and with the council and with the mayor and administration. So I'll ask for a roll call.
Yes. Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury.
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch.
Before I vote, I just want to say that I do not agree with tabling this. I think that we should go forward, so I'm going to vote no.
Councilmember Shortway.
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes,
Motion carries to table.
thank you. So we'll pick this up at the next meeting or before if necessary. We can always arrange a special meeting. Mr. Shortway, you seem to have had an experience in reviewing this. Perhaps you and Mrs. Bucieri might want to become a committee of the council and report back to us. If indeed it's necessary. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Resolution 2293. I'm going to ask for these three resolutions separately because I think it's important that our individual feelings on these resolutions be expressed and expressed clearly and not lost in bringing them all together. So may I have a motion to bring 2293 forward on the floor?
I'll make a motion for.
Motion made by Mr. Fury. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Shortwood. A resolution expressing community support for water and wastewater infrastructure projects. I believe that Mrs. Bright is in the process of preparing applications for grants, and that the basis of these resolutions is to provide her with an expression of community support. I have seen Mr. Fury's letter. I've written one myself. I just didn't have an opportunity to bring it down to be transcribed. And I would ask any other councilman or woman to please bring that letter forward, and we could include it with the grant. It's I think, an effective way of expressing our support, and hopefully it will be able to gain us some additional funding. Anybody else have comments?
No, I agree that a letter of support would go a long way. I think when they review these grants, that they have support from all the council members, and that makes a big difference.
Thank you. May you have a roll call, please?
Yes. Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
2294, a resolution expressing community support for transportation projects. Again, I'm asking this be placed on the floor for consideration.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr.
Second it.
Seconded by Mr. Lynch. Again, this is in preparation for submission of a grant by Mrs. Bright. And again, if we can provide her with some support in this area, it would be, I'm sure, greatly appreciated and hopefully effective. So I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Before I say,
Oh, certainly.
I just want to mention, thanks to Danell for taking the initiative to do these, to go after these grants. I think it's very helpful.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And resolution 2295, a resolution expressing community support for senior citizens projects. May I have a motion
I'll
to,
make this motion.
thank you, Mr. Lynch, and a second on this?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Shortway. Again, may we have any support from the council in support of the senior citizens project? I'm sure would be appreciated. So may I have any questions on it or
No.
comments?
Our golden citizens should be taken care of.
Yes, I think we're, hey, I number, I think,
With your gold.
Shortway, you number, and, yeah, I think you number,
Speak for
and
yourself, fellas. Speak for
you two,
yourselves.
you two youngsters over here, right? Yeah. Roll call, please.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury.
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Resolution 2296, authorizing contracts with a certain approved state contract. Vendors Route 23 Auto Mall Contract 17 Fleet 00241. May I have a motion to place this on the floor?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second? Second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Shortway. Any questions or comments on this? Can we tell what exactly is the background on this?
Okay, I can take
Right.
it. So we've been kind of set back with the DPW vehicles, due to COVID for the past couple of years. So we
Yes, I
did put in,
remember.
yeah, so we did put in an order for vehicles in, we use the enterprise program is what we've been using with them. But those vehicles were canceled after, putting in an order in for 5 of them. They were canceled in April of last year because of the chip shortage. We put in an early order in October of this year for, October of 2021 for this year's vehicles. But we were just informed about 2 weeks ago that those vehicles would not be available and coming in until around March of next year. So right now, because we've gone now 2 full years pretty much without vehicles being replaced at the DPW, I spoke with Ed when he told me what Enterprise, what the manufacturer said to them. And I told him, let's see if we can find some vehicles that are on state contract that we can just pull so they can at least, have a newer vehicle in there sooner before the winter comes. So luckily, Pete found one. Pete Rebello with the DPW found one, and he's looking for another one. So we do have the funding already from prior capital ordinances. So we're going to go ahead and move forward on this one and hopefully he finds another one.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please. Let's say, any question? No, okay, roll call.
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. This evening, we have a second reading of an ordinance 22-07, calendar year 2022, an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank per NJSA 40A:4-45.14. May I have a motion to place by the council to place this on the floor?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Fury. This is a standard procedure that we go through in regards to our approval of funds for next year for our budget. It's also the time when we open up the floor for public for questions on this. So may I have a motion to open up the floor for questioning on this?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Fury. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Bucieri. The floor is open for public wishing to come and comment on this particular ordinance and only on this particular ordinance. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Floor is open. Is there anyone wishing to comment?
Yeah, I have Tom McClackery.
Mr. McClackery?
Yeah, you gotta wait for a second. I'm not that fast with the fingers. Anyway, good evening again. And essentially, no matter how you portray this little ordinance, cap bank, it's a future tax raise is what it is. Cut it to the quick. You're gonna say to us when you need the money, well, we have this in the bank because we didn't raise taxes last year. Well, that's all fine and nice, but it's still a tax raise. So I would suggest that we not do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McClackery. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have Doreen Edwards.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes, good evening. I hope
Good
everybody's doing well. I don't have access to the paperwork on the budget right now, so I'm just gonna put this out there. Having read about a month ago, if it was, about the Vernon being overburdened with $3 million worth of MUA fees, I'd like to know if that's been considered and what's gonna happen with those funds, and is the public going to recoup any of that?
That has nothing to do with this particular question, Mrs. Edwards. They're separate. So thank you
Okay.
very much. but you
Well, it
can
was
raise
about the
at another
budget, so
time.
I thought I would ask.
Thank
So,
you. Okay,
I have Jesse Palladini.
Mrs. Palladini?
I just basically want to say that I'm in agreement with Tom McClackery, and that's what I had asked when you introduced the budget. Why do you even put anything in there about a cap? So I too would suggest you not do it for the same reasons that Mr. McClackery stated. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I have Peg DeStassi.
Mr. Stassi?
Thanks. I'm not sure this applies here, but I'm going to ask it anyway. On one hand, as a taxpayer, it's been a great thing. You have a zero budget. But as a financial advisor with over 50 years experience in budgeting and fiscal planning, I have serious questions. First of which is, what planning tools have been put into place when this budget catches up with us in a year or two?
Mr. Stassi? That,
Go ahead.
your comments are certainly worth hearing and worthwhile, but they're not germane to this particular issue.
Okay. I'll wait till later. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Is there anyone else?
I don't have any other hands up.
Thank you. Seeing no hands or no comments from skyboxes, I'll ask for a motion to close the meeting to the public.
Motion to close the floor to the public.
Motion made by Mr. Shortway. Is there a
Second,
second?
I'll second
by
it.
Mr. Fury. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the issue is on the floor. Does any council person have any comments on this?
No.
Okay. Do we have a roll call, please?
Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury.
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Ordinance 22-08. A bond ordinance providing for the acquisition of a new fire truck by the Township of Vernon in the County of Sussex, New Jersey, appropriating $655,000 therefore, and authorizing an issuance of $424,047 bonds or notes of the township for financing such appropriation. May I have a motion to bring it forward and place it on the floor?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Fury. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. Are there, also a second reading, so I will ask for a motion to open the floor to the public.
I'll make a motion to open to the public.
Motion made by Mr. Fury. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Shortway. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. The floor is open for comments or questions regarding this particular ordinance 22-08 regarding the fire engine. Any comments from the floor? How about from above?
Yeah, I have Peg Stassi.
Mrs. DeStacy?
Thank you. I do believe that Brian should recuse himself from this vote. Thank you.
Thanks for letting me know.
Mr. Towns, I've always had questions on that myself. He serves as a member of the volunteer fire department. Does that preclude his ability to vote on acquisition of equipment while serving the public as a council person?
Well, I don't have time to do a formal.
Okay, so
council
you're
analysis.
saying probably better to be safe.
Exactly.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
No problem.
Are there any other comments? No. I have a motion to close the meeting to the public.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Fury. Is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Are there any questions or comments?
No.
I have ask for one verification. Have all specs been approved on this so that they are as written for the type of truck that it is?
I hope so.
Yes. All right. I just wanted to be sure because I saw some, I had a question on something on the original spec.
Specifically?
Huh?
Anything specifically?
Yeah, it's being called a mini pumper, and I don't know what's the difference between them. A mini pumper or a regular pumper?
I think it was a typo.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to be sure because
Understand it's a lot of money.
I go back to the time when we were talking about, the walkie-talkies. And so I'll ask for a motion to close the floor. Or I'm sorry,
We did that.
call for a
Roll call. Roll call.
roll call vote, please.
Sure. Vice President Bucieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury.
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Stay.
Good abstain.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. I believe that completes our agenda. We are now at that portion, we're opening the meeting to the public. We're limited to 5 minutes on any topic. Again, if you have any comments, please.
Marcy, did you put a sign-in sheet there or no?
I didn't, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And I will next, as soon as I got in here, I said.
That's okay.
All right.
I just thought of it now.
I'll make sure that we hear their name.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any comments or questions, please come to the podium, give us your name and then we'd like to say.
Walter Marsico, 41 years in Vernon. Mayor, another mistake you made, huh? Is that correct? We can have a conversation, no? It's a couple of mistakes you've made. But yet you come after me, you and your people, for the past 2 years now. Getting a little fed up with it. Maybe one of your two retired cops here can define what harassment is. Because 1 and 2 are very good at attacking my job. You should know better as law enforcement. You want people like this working for you in town? Sorry to hear that. Internal affairs complaints for what? Do you understand the trouble you're getting the township into? No, you don't. You're gonna find out. Both of you. And come to find out, you're responsible for both of them. When you were mayor and president, council president. You don't care, do you? You think it's funny. It's probably why you were run out of West Milford. And you would probably sue the township of Vernon like you did to Fairfield. Neither one of you are credible. And you, Mayor, it's mistake after mistake with you. And then you give me this, a summons. A bullshit summons.
Excuse me. I understand your passion on this, but
I don't think you do, Mr. Rizzuto.
yes, I do.
I don't think you do.
But it's not necessary to use that type of language.
Nothing gets through to these guys. When is it going to? How many times do I have to come up here and explain what's going on before somebody does something? Or before a lawsuit comes to the township? We just all gonna sit here like this guy and smile? Because I don't find it funny. Maybe the kids and the teachers should know where you teach, what you're about. How about that, West Milford? This isn't a joke. I'm sick of the harassment. You do nothing about it. Did you get a certified letter in the mail? 2 of them? Did you get a certified letter in the mail? So what's the point of me coming up here? No answers? Nothing. What is the point of a council meeting?
Council meeting is to conduct council business
And
Not the
about the public
and give the opportunity for the public to hear.
to just come up here and speak and look like total fools all
No,
the time.
no.
It's what
Your comments are heard, but
they're heard and
it is, we don't run the township. That's the responsibility of the
as the mayor.
administrator and his subordinates.
He's doing a great job running the township, running it into the ground. You need to resign or be recalled. Attacking someone's job, their employment, that's low, very low. I don't think they get any lower than the 2 of you. You're trying to take my job? If you have a problem, you come to me or you go to Vernon Police. But you're too much of a coward to do that. If there's some kind of legal problem, an issue, you go to the Vernon Police. You go to the prosecutor's office. Maybe you did. Maybe it didn't work out for you. Then you came in to attack my job. The township now has to pay for that. I hope you're both proud. And I hope you're proud for doing nothing about it and continuing to do nothing. I wanted you to see my face tonight. Have a good night.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to address the council?
Perhaps I'm a little bit famous because I always ask the town to run the town business like a business. In business, when a vice president makes a big mistake and loses a big client, he takes a hit. And a lot of times it means he resigns, all right? I think if we review what the mayor has been involved in as he's running the municipality, I think it's pretty serious. It comes down to buying the piece of property without the town council support. And what issues are coming from that. I was there this evening. I took a few pictures and I posted it online. And a gentleman popped up out of nowhere. I'm not going to name his name. And he says, that's not even a public road. We don't own that road. We can't update that road. All right. I think there's a lot of information that isn't being shared with the public. And we have a renegade mayor who runs off and does what he wants. And when, from a business point of view, when the vice president of a company makes a mistake, it's looked at like this is the mistake we saw. How many other daily mistakes are made by him, by his staff? How much more does he miss that's costing the taxpayers money? I think when you see big, major mistakes like this, it comes down to the fact that he's not a manager. He's a politician. And we all hear him speak from his paper and he gives wonderful speeches, okay? I don't see it. I don't see the execution of a clean, smooth running business. I see major mistakes where infrastructure that the town needs to operate is sold off like it's an empty lot. He's gonna find somebody to hang this on. Some poor schmuck down the line is gonna get fired because that piece of property got lost. It's his responsibility. It's his management team. And I think that if we look at what has occurred during during the time that he's been mayor, I think you really got to look at it. All right. As far as the tower being sold, anybody in this government who knows the individual who bought it, or who knows that the individual was going to buy it and didn't stand up and say, hey, this is wrong. Stop my friend from buying this property. Stop my brother from buying this property. Stop the contractor that I do business with from buying this property. They're equally as guilty. To not say something makes you guilty. All right. And I think that this person who bought it, the radio station that they run, I think they're pretty well connected in this community. And I think that when a business owner is planning on making a major purchase, they're not quiet about it. They brag about it. And when things go wrong and they need help and the transaction isn't going smoothly, they reach out to their friends and they're saying, hey, buddy, can you help me out with this? I hit a log jam. I can't get past this particular spot. What do you suggest? I'm suggesting that people involved in the town knew that this individual was buying a piece of property with a tower. That was infrastructure. And they said nothing. And they allowed it to go. And where I come from, that's guilt. Okay? That's a guilty party who's just as involved as the individual who made the purchase. All right? I think that's about all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Rich Carson of Sussex. And when I was on the council and when I ran for council, one of the things that an individual takes upon themselves is to very simply just serve the public, but you also have to be responsive. And even though there will be times of disagreement, you work together for the collective good. And what I've been seeing over the past several years, and indeed tonight, is something that very well could have been avoided. It is so simple, and it has been simple for the past several years. And that very simply is the fact that there has been a lack of responsiveness prior to this current council. People were cut off, vendettas were initiated. God only knows what triggered this, Mr. Marsico. I've been following his story online, and it is an absolute pathetic mess. It should never have happened. It boils down to simple communication. And at this point, this town, over the past couple of years, has been nothing but a misguided ship in the middle of an ocean. And it's going to take some work with this present council to turn that ship around and get it on the right track again. Mr. Mayor, I gotta tell you, I've been in town close to 40 years. My ex-wife knew your wife when many decades ago on the Board of Ed with the SCA, things like that. I understood you and firmly believed you to be an honest, honorable gentleman. Over the past year, I wish I knew what to tell you, except what you have done in this town and your direction of operation and administration does not suffice for the better good of this town. I'm sorry. I mean, I admired you for decades. It is time to resign. One way or another, it is time to resign. This whole town needs to get on a correct course. I'm sorry to say it, I don't take pleasure in it, but listening to Mr. Marsico, listening to other things over the past couple of years, it just boggles the mind. And others on the council here too. Take heed to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. May I, is there anyone else who would like to address?
Glenwood section, Vernon. I just wanted to ask, is it typical, I don't know, in other towns, it's the only one I've ever been involved with, is it typical when a resident questions any of you, doesn't anyone ever answer? Is it not allowed? I'm really asking that sincerely. Is it just a choice you'd rather not answer, or you're not allowed to? Because I remember Councilman Shortway, when you were president, said, if I correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't have to answer. I never remember ever hearing you answer any question that's presented. So this council has, usually in the next meeting, you'll follow up, correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
So is that allowed or not?
Yeah, I suppose it is.
Not to. Because when Mr. Marsico was addressing, if this is true, I know it's true. You know why I know it's true? Because I had a private investigator who used to work for the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office. I called him up and I asked him, not that I didn't believe Walter, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And he confirmed it. I thought you just went to his employer, but you went to Internal Affairs. How could a member of our town council? Yes.
I understand what you want to say, but a good part of the reasons why we don't just initially comment without any consideration.
You don't know the history.
That, and also because it's not customary to talk about personnel situations
I got it.
in public.
I truly was asking a
Have
question.
closed session. You know, and I can let you have some latitude when we start talking in generalities, but I think once the finger of accusation begins to move, then as council president, I have to begin to think about what position it places the township and the council in. So
Okay.
it's not that we're trying to hide anything. It's just that, we are governed by law. And nothing happens fast with government.
I understand completely.
And I think, Mr. Lynch, please give me your comment of why nothing happens fast in government.
There's a reason things don't move so quickly in government, so nobody gets ahead of themselves, and that's the way it should be for everyone. This government is your government. We are here to serve you. We are not going to move any faster than we need to so that everybody sees the light of day when we do something.
Or are able to, okay? Because all of our actions are governed by law. I think that's why we have an attorney present at all of our meetings.
I guess I just can't fathom that we have people in our government breaking the law.
But we don't know that, do we? I mean, you're saying that, and that's where I have to stop you,
Right, I understand.
all right? Because the council has its own evaluative mechanisms. And we use those in terms of working with the administration and bringing things to a conclusion. But so I can remind you, this type of government, this is the government that the township has chosen. And we have to work within the scope of this particular government and its rules. It's as simple as that. You may not like it.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is. You have every right to expect some type of feedback from us and also some, the ability to, hear what we've done and what you can expect.
I
But it-
appreciate that.
But it will never come as fast as you want, and it may not come the way that you want. But I think you have to expect that the council does listen, but it just might not.
I truly,
Acting your-
I truly believe that you do listen. I do not feel the previous council listened. Some members, yes, but until COVID, when I started really getting involved in watching them.
5 minutes.
Excuse me, sir.
I got it right here.
Don't worry, excuse me,
Okay, I don't need anything. for the-
please address your comments to the
There's one
council.
council president here.
Thank you.
I'll take,
Thank you. Thank you for everything you explained.
look,
I think what concerns me the most is how our township will be affected by a situation like Walter Seacoast, where because of the elected officials' actions, we're gonna pay. So forgive me for saying more than I should have. I think that, and I want to ask about Black Creek Drive. We don't own it, do we?
don't know.
Okay.
I think that, I'll be honest, I think that's a question that was raised, and I think there's still some concern over it.
I was just reading very recently about the solar company that from the old.
I'm going to give you a few more seconds because it's 33, but I did take up a good,
Paused it.
Okay, I
okay, fine, thank you.
what you did, and I respect that.
I can count on you. Thank you for your,
Hit the pause button.
So that's been brought to your attention. Now, is that something that you will look into, or is that something the mayor will explain?
suppose we were to tell you that it's already being looked at.
Okay, all right, that's all I'm gonna say. Thank you for everything you.
Quite welcome.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, ladies, and respected my Vernon guys. My name is Anil, and I am an owner of Alpine House Bed and Breakfast. I would like to share with everyone now today in public, with the council, with the mayor, everybody sitting here, that there is a gentleman who works in your office. That's his name is Robert Westenberger. Now, the problem was, he sent me a threatening mail, which I had gone and objected to Mr. Mayor. And the situation was diffused after Mr. Robert Westenberger was called into the mayor's office and he apologized. And I had asked Mr. Mayor that is this the letter being sent on mail? Is it not a threat? So he says, this is a standard language. If this is a standard language, I'm really sorry to know that this is no functioning of the office here. I'm an educated person. I'm a postgraduate, 40 years in hospitality. I don't take these threats at all. And I'm really feeling so sad. Sometimes I regret coming here to this town, I brought laurels to the town. I've been a fair businessman. If you talk to anybody in the town, they'll tell you about my profession, my character. But repeatedly, today I heard about Mr. Marciro's problem. There are so many other problems around. If there is a person who is doing wrong in your office, why don't you remove him? Second, this threat was one part. But before that, he had come inside without taking permission to my property from he comes inside and he threatens my people working on my property. My property comes under emergency services like police, like fire trucks, like ambulances. So if there is a damage or a repair to be handled by me that particular time, I'm not supposed to wait till the time your office is open. Whether it is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I have to do service to my clients, I have to get it replaced or repaired. And then finally, if I have to file a permit, I will go to your office, I'll come to your office and file a permit. But he had no right to intimidate my engineers working on an HVAC unit. This is almost a year ago, but I'm telling you how the situation works. If this is how it is going to be, next time somebody coming inside my property, I'm going to call Vernon cops. Nobody's taking permission from me and they are trespassing my property. I'm going to get that guy arrested and then there will be a case against the town, the wrong functioning. intimidating threats, and I got all the proofs now. So I would like either set your house correct, throw out these people, those who do not know how to respect business guys, or even common guys here working and living in this town. But next time, believe me, if something goes wrong and I'm being hurt, that will be the final. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Do we have anybody else?
Yes, I have Peg DeStacy.
Mr. Stassi?
Hi. You know, tonight I will speak to our recent approval of the zero budget. On one hand, as a taxpayer in town, I'm thrilled. But as a 50-year financial advisor, I have serious questions. The first of which, what planning tools have been put into place when this budget catches up with us in a year or two? I know it will catch up, as it will with all of our personal budgets. It stands to reason in an inflationary period, increases in expenditures will be expected. Instead, we are holding departments to a zero budget, which will result in a deficit next year with our budget. This will probably result in an increase in next year's tax base, and it will carry over potentially for years to follow. What is the township doing to augment this shortage? Does the plan include bonding? I hope not. Tonight, I really want to address also that the mayor should either resign or be recalled. I believe it is your responsibility for the errors that have occurred over the last few months. In addition, I want to address the project that was presented by Legends. I hope that you will stand in the aisle for Vernon and not allow this expansion to take place without considering our water and sewer systems. Our aquifer is running at a deficit, and we can't sustain a new draw. We need the EDUs for our MUA. Please stand strong for Vernon. I am not a vote opposed in any way, but I believe we need to protect Vernon and our environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stassi.
You're welcome.
Sorry, I have Doreen Edwards.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes, hi, thank you.
You're
First of all, I'd just like to comment on Peg DeStassi's comments. I am in 100% agreement as far as the new project that's being presented for additional building of housing. Stand strong for Vernon. You said something to the fact that maybe Vernon's secret has gotten out and more people coming to the area. Or maybe they found out what mistakes we've made before and not held anybody accountable, like a town center that has been in progress for how many years now with no firm water source. So that's number one. Number two, I'd like to bring up the thing that next month is Lyme Disease Awareness Month. And as May comes around the corner, the weather gets warmer and more people are going to be exposed to ticks. Tragically, Lyme disease and other tick-borne illnesses are exploding all over the United States. And actually, I would say an epidemic in our state. Our state of New Jersey ranks third in the nation for Lyme disease prevalence. This is far too many people suffering from this terrible disease. In 2020, there was a report by the Health and Human Service Tick-Borne Disease Working Group, which was created by a wonderful New Jersey congressional leader in the New Jersey 4th District, Chris Smith. And he's actually in Mercer, Monmouth, and Ocean County. Well, he's been working tirelessly
for many, many years to get more federal funds and more insight to what's going on with these diseases. He created a legislation in the House of the Representatives in 2016, and they estimate 300,000 new cases of Lyme disease diagnosed in the United States each year. And unfortunately, though, many instances go unreported or misdiagnosed. So the experts actually think it's more like 476,000 new Lyme cases every year. We need people to be more aware of their surroundings and what to do to prevent this disease, to get infected from the disease. Not everybody who gets bit will get a bullseye. So I just wanted to point that out. Maybe perhaps next month you could do a proclamation for Lyme Disease Awareness Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Segwin.
Mhm.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
Yes, Tom McClackery.
Mr. McClackery.
Okay, yeah, good evening again.
Good evening.
I have to say, I've been listening or been involved in town meetings for a few decades now. And unfortunately, there's 3 council members up there that are not responsible for what I'm about to say, but they're going to take the blame for it. I have to say, in 3 decades of following town meetings, you guys really had me rolling with selling that piece of property with a cell tower on it or repeater and an emergency generator. It was the funniest damn thing I've ever heard. Unfortunately, it does reflect a heck of a lot of ineptitude on the part of the management and bureaucracy of the town. I know the mayor, Mr. Burrell, is trying to take it on the chin for this one, but hey, all bureaucracies have a certain shape to them. The township is basically a pyramid. It goes from the mayor down to the town administrator, and then from him it goes out to the various managers. My question is, which manager was supposed to be in charge of selling these properties? Number one. And number 2 is, I know the chief of police is in charge of now getting latitude and longitude and all that thing. Would it just be simpler to note it on the deed? What is on the property? I mean, that's simple, straight up, straight out, no bones about it, no bureaucracy. Hey, you put a tower, a repeater, force main, pump station, you name it, you put it on a piece of property. The deed reflects what's on the property. Very simple. But going back to my first question, which manager was in charge of selling these properties? Okay. Thank you. Have a
I
good
would
night.
expect, Mr. McClackery, I would expect that, the operations of the township fall to the mayor. You heard his comments earlier today. And, I leave it to him to handle this.
Thanks, Mr. Rizzuto. Mr. Barella, who was the manager? Okay. Well, no reflection. I don't want to, I don't want to say anything, but I have to say, it was the funniest damn thing I heard in 30 years. Have a good night.
Thank you.
I have Diane Wexler.
Ms. Wexler. How are you?
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes. Very well.
Okay, so I want to ask you something. I would like to meet with you and another council member, maybe Brian. Peg DeSassi put this project together and is continuing to research on hybrid and electric vehicles and solar carports. And Craig Williams of the Environmental Commission is also working on solar carports. And it would save the town if using solar energy as opposed to buying solar energy, lots of money. The EV cars can save in the original estimates $7,000 a year, but that doesn't even include the amount of money they save in that they don't need maintenance. So we would like to speak to you, Patrick, and someone you pick from the council to go over all this information that we presented to the mayor and Charles Boker last year, because we have no choice. By 2025, we have to have charging stations. We have to have certain things. There is tons of grant money out there now. So that's what I would like. And you know, I love speaking to you on these meetings. So just tell me, we can make a date and you and I can meet wherever you want. And I'll go over with you this whole thing, 89 pages of stuff that was put together. And Peg will come and you could have Brian or Natalie, because I know we can't have a quorum, and just tell me when, because it's important and it's on your watch and we have to do it. So that's all I want to say. And I thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have Jesse Palladini.
Mrs. Palladini?
Yes, I have a couple of things I'd like to address. In these past 2 years, we have seen the most destruction and damage in our municipal corporation than with any mayor in the history of Vernon Township. And so, malfeasance, nonfeasance, and incompetence. First, Mayor Burrell made the decision to put a bicycle pump track on landlocked, contaminated property. Then he bought the contaminated, landlocked Baldwin property without even a survey.
Excuse me, Mrs. Palladini, can you hold on for a minute? Can we clear the audio? Can we clear the atrium back there?
Thanks, Pat.
Is it clear? Is it clear?
Can we close the door?
No, we can't close the door.
They're outside.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please proceed, Mrs. Palladini.
Then Mayor Burrell bought the contaminated, landlocked Baldwin property without even a survey. Taxpayers at liability in perpetuity in cleanup costs. And we now learn that the township does not even own Black Creek Drive. We need to suspend all construction there pending definitive determination of the road. Now we find out that in November, before the 3 new council members took office, the mayor auctioned off for just pennies on the dollar a vital township-owned property that held our radio communications towers for our emergency services and let the equipment go with the land. I understand this property was appraised upwards of $80,000 and was auctioned for a mere $10,000 with the equipment on it. Mayor, your detailed inquiry, as you keep repeating, should have been conducted before you sold this property. How you twist and distort things is just reprehensible. We won't even discuss the sewer recharge property that you auctioned off. We'll save that for the next meeting. And just as an FYI, we found today proof positive that the Baldwin property was indeed in the sewer service area and even in the development area. Go to Inside Vernon for the whole scoop on that. Back to Mayor Burrell's dismal records. There are no words to even describe what he has done to the residents of this town other than total incompetence. He needs to resign now or face being recalled. We cannot afford another year and a half of his incompetence and malfeasance. I call upon the residents of Vernon Township to start a campaign. Resign or recall. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Palladini. Are there any other?
Yes, I have Al Lasco.
Mr. Moscow?
Yes, hi, good evening. Last meeting, one of our neighbors here in Glen Harbor, Francine Vince, asked for a second time for any type of comment on a safety ordinance that was discussed by the last council and is kind of, we haven't heard anything about it. I just would like something to happen on this before it's too late, before somebody gets hurt. You know, we had a bullet that struck one of our neighbors' homes and nothing's being done about it. And I guess, like you said, one of the gentlemen that said before that the government moves slowly. Well, yeah, you do move slowly, and especially with this, and I understand to a point, but the thing that I don't understand is that this is safety of our residents here that we're talking about. You'll move pretty quick if somebody gets hit with a bullet, and especially if someone dies. I think you'll move real quick at that point. And the fact that you won't even comment on this, at least the last board commented after we mentioned what had happened and, you know, had a little bit of empathy. You guys, it's like, doesn't matter. And, you know, I wonder, you know, you must have children. I just don't understand how, you know, you could just totally ignore, you know, people calling in and asking for what your thoughts are on this. But unfortunately, it's not surprising in this day and age, you know, with what happens and with politics and everything else. So I get it, but it just, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Mr. Lasco,
yes.
may I ask you a question? Do you think,
Sure.
looking around, virtually all of us either have children or had children or have grandchildren or very close, you know, relatives who have children that are close to them.
Right.
Do you really think that any of us would permit this to proceed and endanger the life of a child or even the adults who live there without looking into it?
Right. Well, I would
But
hope so.
looking
But
into it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be coming back to you and reporting about this.
No,
Until, excuse me, until there is something definitive that we can do. And that's the problem.
okay.
You're asking us to legislate against existing legislation, which in many cases is superior to what we can do, either as a council or as with, you know, individually. But that doesn't mean that we don't care. I don't know
Okay.
if you're aware of this, but my grandsons, 3 of them, who just happened to be born while I was sitting up here 8 years ago, 8.5 years ago, on a Monday night, they live in that community.
Oh, I'm aware of it. And that's what makes,
And I believe my one of them was standing nearby when, I think, when the bullet struck.
Well,
But there are other
then-
issues that need to be addressed. And I'm trying in my best way to work this out, because there are things that we can do and there are things that we can do that won't stand up. And you know what? Most everything we want to do won't stand up.
Okay,
So let's see
Fine.
if we
We'll
can't.
see.
It's not that I'm not listening to
it's
you.
public comment and you're taking all the time.
I paused
You know,
it.
others are able to speak.
Excuse me,
and-
me.
Yes,
No, the clock is paused. So
okay,
we're not taking any minutes away from you. I'm trying to have some type of a dialogue because I understand your
No,
frustration.
I'm
And I
very
believe
happy
even
that you
Mr.
want to have a
Lynch would like to
dialogue.
say something.
My neighbor asked for a dialogue twice and got nothing. So I had to put it in language that would get a response to see if you guys are actually listening. Thank
Fine,
you very
then I
much.
had to put it in a language that would let you know that we are.
Okay, I
All right, I
appreciate it.
think what I'm asking is this, we're looking at for this to have some type of a trust. And I
Right.
think if you know that my grandchildren are living there, my daughter, my
Mhm.
son-in-law, do you really think I wouldn't be caring or trying to do something about it?
I
It's a ra-
really would
It's a
have
rather
appreciated.
parochial point of view for me, but, I would think that it should carry some weight.
Then I have one question. Yes, it carries weight. Why wouldn't you comment? When my neighbor asked twice, 2 weeks in a row, and nothing, silence.
Because
You
I
could at
didn't
least
think
take-
I had to, okay? It's as
Okay,
simple as
okay.
that.
Wow, okay. But you guys struck down emails because you were afraid of emails and the very first thing you did. But yet, okay. All
Thank
right,
you.
that makes a lot of
Mr. Lynch,
sense.
you have
And
something?
I'm gonna save my comments till council comments.
Is there anything else,
Okay.
Mr. Lynch?
No, that's it. I'm glad I got some kind of a response. At least it shows that somebody's listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Sean Mazar.
Mr. Mazur?
Can you hear me?
Yes?
Okay. Well, as you can imagine, once again, I'm calling here about the vacant and abandoned property ordinance and my frustration with it. And after listening to what the mayor has done, I'm urging you to revise this ordinance before the mayor auctions off my property. We have something in this country called a constitution. And in that constitution, we have amendments. And I'm glad the attorney's here tonight, because I want to ask a question to him. What amendment is life, liberty, and property? Hello?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Who are you asking?
It covers life, liberty, and property. I'm asking that to the township attorney.
What's the question?
He wants to know what life,
What-
liberty, and property is covered under the Constitution.
Covers life, liberty, and property.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
now-
not my role here to answer that sort of question, Council President. This is
The
public
14th.
comment, not
Okay,
question.
well, all right. Well, it's the 14th Amendment, which prohibits the state from depriving any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The three terms together, life, liberty, and property, are the core elements of individual rights of self-determination. Property is the fruit of self-determination. Without it, the meaning of the two are near worthless. I urge this council, this new council, to take the bull by the horns and look at the definition of abandoned properties per the Abandoned Properties Rehabilitation Act, PL 203, Section C210, defines in detail what constitutes an abandoned property for the purposes of a number of different legal remedies. I won't go into the rest of it, but this ordinance needs to be tabled and redefined to leave me alone. I'm actively working on a project. I have open permits that cost me thousands of dollars. I'm paying tens of thousands of dollars for materials because of inflation. I want to be left alone. This township is violating my constitutional rights. This ordinance from the get-go, I had spoken 3 years ago stating it's arbitrary, capricious, and unconstitutional. And Mr. Shortway, how dare you go to your wife's Facebook group and post all your nonsensical rhetoric about this? And I know you're targeting me. And from the day I met you, you wouldn't look me in the eye when you were mayor. And I asked you about this ordinance. You said there was nothing you could do, which is a lie. And Mr. Burrell, for Christ's sake, resign. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there anyone else?
Yes, Francine Vince.
Mrs. Vince?
Good evening, Francine Vince in the Glenwood section of Vernon. Council President, thank you so much for responding to the safety ordinance question that my neighbor, Mr. Lasco, asked earlier. And I just want to follow up on that. I just want to be clear, we're not asking you or the council to legislate against anything as you spoke about. What we're really asking for is a dialogue. We'd love to talk with you. We just like you are invested in not creating a solution that has no teeth. We want a solution that's going to work for everybody involved and help support the safety of folks in our communities. So we're not asking you to just come up with legislation to legislate against something. We'd love to talk with you. We'd love to meet with you and work together on this solution. You're not alone. We're here to support and help you. And we hope you'll reach out to us to, allow us to help you with this.
Sure, we can get together.
I'll send you an email,
Look
Mr.
forward to it.
Council President. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else?
Yes, I have Eric Card.
Mr. Card?
Yes, good evening. Highland Lakes section of Vernon. Wondering if I can contact somebody on the council that would hear my little situation I keep continuing having with permits with the town. And I'm not getting anywhere with the mayor's office. It's actually been 100% waste of my time. And that proved in the last letter he wrote to me. So I'm going at it in a different manner, and I need to speak to somebody who can actually help me with this situation, because this is for replacing a pool over a year is just crazy.
I'm sorry, for replacing a pool?
Yep, I took down an above ground pool to replace an above ground pool, and I can't get a permit. It's been submitted 3 times. I've spoken to the building department head. He's explained to me it's went to zoning. Zoning keeps disappearing with the application. The mayor tells me that in his letter tells me that I need to resubmit the application and that I should have received the receipt. And everybody in that establishment tells me that my check is my receipt. So I have copies of all my paperwork that's been submitted, but for some reason, I can't get anything done. And I'm exhausted.
Do you have a copy of the canceled check?
No.
Well, so has the check been deducted from your account?
Nope.
Then my suggestion to you is kill the check and reapply with a new check. It could have been lost.
But 3 times, sir?
I'm sorry?
But 3 times?
You've written 3 checks?
3 times I've submitted applications, and 3 times, my personal opinion, they've been thrown in the garbage by zoning.
No, excuse me, did you write 3 checks?
Correct. No, I actually wrote 6.
6 checks?
Correct. Not one of them has been cashed, and not one of them has been returned. When I've had verbal conversation with Bob at the building department, and he personally told me he's looking at my application and it's going to zoning. That was August. And then the mayor sends me a letter telling me all I need to do is resubmit after I've been back and forth with him on this manner matter at least 7 or 8 times. I've been back and forth with him on this. I'm exhausted with speaking with him. I'm exhausted with the departments. I need some special help here.
I'll see what we can do.
Okay? You have my email if you need to contact
It's
me.
okay, we'll find you.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
great
you.
evening.
Thank you, Mr. Carr.
I have Ann Larson.
Ms. Larson?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? I'm unmuted.
Yes.
So, good evening. Thank you very much for letting me speak. I wanted to go over a couple of things, if I may. In reference to the Black Creek situation, it's now come to our attention. It appears to be not the township road. It sounds like another boondoggle mistake somewhere along the line. I would say, please, we request that you do not spend one more red cent developing property that is landlocked before this is determined what's going on. My suspicions are that we would go full speed ahead and then, oops, we have another emergency we have to fix, that now we have to either pay for an easement or a road or whatever situation's going on. It sounds like another ginormous mistake. So please, for the love of God, do not spend any more money developing that property until we know what the situation is regarding the street going into it and the access there too. Another situation I wanted to discuss is these permits. You've had several people call up here tonight alone, experiencing terrible problems with the permit situation. They're getting nowhere with the mayor. I'm asking for guidance on their behalf, as well as plenty of our other clients that are looking to sell homes and fix homes up in this township. It needs to be more reactive and responsive to the actual people who are paying the salaries of those employees. Lastly, I need to discuss the situation, the terrible situation with the sale of the property. The mayor gave us his condensed version of what went wrong. He omits a lot of facts. The 0.18 acre property in Highland Lakes, vacant land, was assessed at $111,800. When you look at any other vacant land on the property for 0.18, it is nowhere near 111,000. That should have drawn a red flag to someone, possibly the tax assessor, possibly the appraisers that are going around reevaluating these properties every so often. They've been to how many homes, and they never went past this property and said, gee, what's going on? Not to mention that the other property that the police tower is on, for example, the one in Lake Panorama on Lakeside Northwest, it indicates on it police tower. So these mistakes have been compounded and compounded. I can't imagine a more upsetting version of what went on. And then to be dismissed by saying that the equipment was obsolete and at the end of its useful life. You know what's at the end of its useful life? Sadly, the mayorship. Mr. Burrell, I ask you please to, okay? You need to resign. At least go out with your head held high. Don't make us go get these petitions and send you out that way. Please, it's enough. It's enough that's going wrong for this town. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else, Marcy?
I don't have any other hands up.
Okay. Oh, we got some in person. You want to wait for Pat? Oh, we're not good enough?
He's locked out.
Oh, he's locked out.
Lock themselves up.
Yeah, you gotta leave that door open.
You got 3 minutes.
Okay. Actually 5 for the second.
He does.
Well, I have 1 minute left.
No. No, you don't get to do 2 bites at the apple.
Okay, let's go.
Go ahead.
Hi, Steve Dunlop, Williamsville Estates. First of all, I'd like to say it is so nice to see 5 council members sitting on the dais together. It does my heart good. I hope that the council can continue to get closer to one another, maybe not physically, but to work closer together. It makes me very happy to see it. There's been some contention, started out pretty rough at the beginning of the year, but I've seen progress and it does please me a lot. I hope it continues. One of my buddies was trying to get me back up here to remind the mayor what a liar he is. I have come here for the last 5 months and specifically stated what those specific lies were. He's never rebutted any of them. Tonight, I would just say that it appears his incompetence knows no bounds. And due to our form of government, I know that it's very difficult for the council to do anything about it or take any action because we do have a strong mayor form of government, which is kind of a misnomer because I don't think he's very strong. I hope the council can work together to find some way to sort out the problems of the township because it's become painfully apparent that the mayor is not capable of doing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
I have no hands up.
Okay,
Go for it.
thanks. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name's Camilla Duresta. I'm in Glenwood. I just had a question about the Ryan Homes development. I just wanted to genuinely ask why everybody is happy about it. Just like your opinion.
I think it's a positive step. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen, but I mean, initially, I think the township is being recognized for what it is. It's a Four Seasons township. It has golf, skiing, water sports. Great place to live. I've lived up here for 55 years. You know, we have our problems. I think a large part of the problems comes with the fact that there's limited ingress and egress. We knew that when we moved here. But you know, why shouldn't the township have an opportunity to grow? I think the fact that, I think the fact that we have a very effective land use board will help keep its intrinsic charm without giving way to hodgepodge development. And I think that's what we're looking to do.
Thank you. I also wanted, I would hope you Google Ryan Homes later, just to, because like what I Googled right now in here just doesn't sound totally legit and I'm worried. So I just want you to check it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have no other hands on line.
Seeing no one else wishing to come forward, I'll ask for a motion, I'm sorry, to close the floor to the public.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mr. Fury. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mrs. Bucieri. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Can we have comments from members of the council? Mr. Troy?
Thank you. Under our form of municipal government, council's authority is reduced essentially to advise and consent. This is one of the reasons Councilman Fury and I vehemently opposed the strong mayor form of government for Vernon Township. We were in the minority, 7-1. When the electorate voted to change our form of government, it became the strong mayor government. The authority and responsibility to delegate tasks, accountability, and initiate and oppose discipline when tasks are not effectively accomplished is essential for effective government. The levels of authority may vary within administration's chain of command. However, the failure to carry out delegation of tasks, follow up that tasks were successfully completed, and disciplinary responsibilities at any level in that chain will contribute to the municipality's ineffectiveness, leading to the public's lack of confidence in their municipal government. The citizens of our community and council deserve a comprehensive explanation with accountability for the auction of much needed township property that contain radio communications equipment. Therefore, a complete investigation in this matter with recommendation for disciplinary action if founded needs to be conducted by an outside counsel not associated with the present administration or council. The following needs to be conducted: gather of facts, determine cause, responsibility, and culpability. Suggest reasonable and fair counsel response. It needs to be determined if an adverse employee action occurred and who was the responsible party, and is there just cause for negative discipline. Just cause is one based on the facts that are supported by substantial evidence, are reasonably believed by the employer to be true, and is not for arbitrary, capricious, or illegal reasons. The successful implementation of service starts with the mayor. He or she must delegate responsibility for government tasks, including a lawful disciplinary process to individual departments and department heads when in the municipality they neglect or fail to safeguard the well-being of citizens and/or municipal assets. An investigation is warranted to earn public trust and confidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sherwood. Ms. Boucher?
I don't have many comments. I was glad to see the Ryan Holmes presentation. I look forward to more information. It's not a definite go, but it is nice to be able to start gathering that information and seeing if this is something that would be an opportunity for our town to grow in a positive way. So I look forward to learning more about that. I was very disappointed, shocked to learn of the sale of that property. I wholeheartedly support an investigation. I believe that is occurring as it should be right now, and there'll be more information that will be coming out later that we'll be able to possibly share or not. But it's, as we talked about earlier, just because information isn't shared doesn't mean things aren't happening. As Brian said, government moves slowly, and there is a reason for that. We want to make sure we get things right. Sometimes if you move too quickly, you don't get things right. So I ask that the public just be patient with that process and allow that to occur.
Thank you. Mr. Fury?
Yeah, thanks. I just want to echo the sentiments of Councilman Shortway, Councilwoman Bushieri. I would like to also look into investigation of what happened. And I think that the comment I want to make is, no matter what happens, and this is why we need to move slow, is we have to do it's due process. We have to go through the entire process and see what happened. And I'd like to see that investigation. Another comment I wanted to make, I was at a City of Newark press conference today, and I spoke to the commissioner of the DEP, Sean Latterette, and I had an opportunity to talk to him about the dirt situation in Vernon that's been going on for years. And I encouraged him to not to forget about what happened, and to continue to work with the township to help resolve this, because it's going to be a long and costly process. So he's committed to doing that, and I'm happy that he's able to do that. The question I had is for Chuck and for the mayor. Do you have any brief update on the water project that was for town center? Do you have any kind of information, or do you want to look into it and get back to me by emails, that if that's appropriate, that you could do that? But if you could look into the status of that water project and where we're at and how we're going to proceed. So that's it for me.
Mr. Lynch?
Thank you, Council President. This council worked on a promise that was made during the campaign by me, that we were going to do everything we could to either lower the taxes or get it at a zero increase. Well, that promise was kept. This council has made a budget that was with a 0% increase. And from what I understand, the county may be lowering taxes this year, if I'm not mistaken. But unfortunately, our partners in Vernon Township that spend taxpayer dollars, which is the school board, decided to raise taxes. They couldn't find a way to lower taxes. They're going to be people that are going to say that we did not lower the taxes, and we did lower the tax. We did have a 0% increase for the municipal taxes here in Vernon. Any increase is due to the school. Second of all, I am sitting up here and I'm listening to the residents talk, and it's all about communication. I think this council communicates well in the settings that they are in. And as far as this form of government, I too was against this form of government.
Too.
And so was everybody on this dais. And it's the government we have to work with it right now. And that's all I have for today. And happy Easter and happy Passover.
Thank you. So my comments will be brief, but again, I can only echo my belief that this is not necessarily the best form of government. I lived up here again for a long time, seen a number of them. And this type of government, while it's what we have to work with, constrains actions. And I think the problem is not with the form, but with the people who run the government, who are responsible to the taxpayer and what they do. So it's going to depend upon the taxpayer to make an educated selection whenever they go out to the polling booth and vote. For those that don't, then I suppose they're going to have to be responsible for the fact that they're going to be dissatisfied, but you have an opportunity. I've always said elections have consequences. But regarding what our ability as a council can do, again, there are laws that state very, very clearly, what the course of action that we may take. Sometimes actions, if taken precipitously, work against us. And I think it's only natural that people would say, well, I'm just tired of waiting. Well, we're no different, but we have to do what is right and proper. And that's why we have people like our attorney who guide us and provide us with the appropriate information. We will continue to do so. As far as the people that I've spoken to that, are concerned about safety and the issue of follow through, we'll do what we can. But again, we don't run the government. And the only response to that is the same place that you would go to if you're not happy with what we do. It's called the ballot box. And that's about all I can say. I do want to thank my fellow council members for seating with us up here. It's good to see us all together. We're never going to agree, but let's agree to
Say
sit.
never.
Let's agree to do it here and not sing the back of your heads. Okay. So thank you very much for working with us. And I'd like to also extend my best wishes for a very happy, safe, and joyous Easter. Please be careful and have a good time, especially with the young ones. They're going to be running around doing their Easter egg hunts. So let's watch out for them. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Lettieri. All in favor? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Jimmy.